Alright guys, yo, what's up? I know I haven't made a video in a very, very long time, but I had to come back because I had to talk about this incredible documentary that T1 have released, right? They have a rough, shaky start and kickoff, swapping Silvan in, swapping him out, choking to DRX, coming back, beating Gen G, losing in the final, qualifying for Bangkok, having a really shaky start to Bangkok, coming through so many challenges, overcoming them all, coming into the final against G2, being looked at as a massive underdog, not going to win a single map, not going to win the series, and they go ahead and win it in a 3-2 fashion. And then they drop this, a vlog, a documentary about kickoff and Bangkok. Absolutely incredible. I advise everyone to go and watch it after this video. Go give it a like, go subscribe to the Valorant channel, because this is one of the best documentaries or pieces of content I've ever seen in esports. This should be on Netflix. I wish I rented out a movie theater to go watch it because it's honestly incredible. But what we're going to do in this video, it's going to be a very, very long one. I don't expect you to watch all of it, but watch as much as you can, because I'm just going to talk about some of the little clips and glimpses that we see in this documentary that really spoke to me, I guess. Some really impactful moments, some of the disputes that the team had, some of the behind the scenes that you never get to see anything like this in Valorant. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. All right, so here we are in one of the first talking points that I want to discuss. It's T1 versus DRX. A lot of things are on the line here. DRX versus T1. This is a qualification match to Bangkok, the first Masters of the year. This means a lot to both teams. Not only that, but both of these teams, they've got expectations. They've both got expectations of themselves. T1 have been praised as the super team, the god roster. They should make it to every international. They should win everything. No contest. And DRX, however, you know, they sort of defied expectations, picked up 2 rookies in Freeing and Hyunmin. And this means a lot to both Stacks and Buzz, but also the other DRX players. Mako, playing against his former teammates in Buzz and Stacks. Buzz and Stacks playing against their old team. This means a lot for so many of the players, for so many different reasons. And this, I think, is where tensions got a bit high. Okay? A lot of the pressure got to some of the players, and we'll kind of see it in this clip. So, yeah.
점거가 되어 있는데요. 샷으로. 자, 이거 쭉 들어왔고.
시티서 괜찮아. 아, 리콘도 있습니다.
T1이 너무 유리한데요. 플래시백. 오! 플래시백!
아, 오자 이런 거 하지. 아니다, 얘들아 괜찮아. 멘탈 나가지 마봐. 아, 집중해. 정신 차려. 까비. 이길 수 있다고.
프링이 기다리.
Such an interesting clip, because it shows so many things to fans and just people that are interested in this team. Stacks plants the bomb, says he still has a recon to Izu, and Izu misplays by being a little bit too wide, over peeking, allowing Flashback to get 2 relatively easy kills. T1 through, okay? And as we can see, Stacks got frustrated. Very, very visible frustration on his face, on his player cam. And he says, oh, Izu, you shouldn't have done that, okay? The way that T1 communicate throughout this whole vlog, through the voice comms, through all the little insights and behind the scenes, it shows so much. Because this is a very unique communication style that I don't think I've seen too often in some VCT teams' comm videos. Granted, they probably hide them. But just the fact that T1 show this improves the VCT field, I would say, so much more, because it provides insight. T1 are probably one of the only teams that can do this. You would probably look at NRG last year. This year, you would probably look at, same again, probably NRG, a Vitality, a super team. Teams that have players that just, they know what to say. They know that they have respect for each other, and little mistakes like this are unacceptable. They cannot happen. But that's a hard thing to kind of measure, because you're going to have players that would get quite tilted, quite emotional. You know, Izu in this situation if he wasn't a god and an incredible player, he could let that eat him up inside. He could stacks. He could be like, oh, if we just won that round, he might have a little bit of anger. These are things that are probably quite underlooked amongst some players, amongst some teams. But this shows a lot of resilience, in my opinion, and a lot of trust in every single one of the players. But not only that, the way that Meteor handles it. Everyone has said throughout this year, when T1 has switched to T1, or when Meteor switched to T1, sorry, that like he's a good player, but what else does he provide? And as we kind of see that Gen.G are having a hard time getting together their new team, it shows that Meteor's experience really carries. Like the fact that he's able to go, guys, it doesn't matter, we can still win this, let's lock in, let's focus up. And this isn't the only time he does this. He does this probably 3 or 4 or 5 times. He is a rock, and he makes sure that every single one of the players is calm, not too emotional, and just level-headed, I guess. And it's really interesting to watch. I really enjoy it. But yeah, that's one of the first talking points I want to go over. And then, as unfortunately, T1 don't win this series, they lose it to DRX, and Buzz has got quite a lot of things to say about that. All right, it's shortly after the 1 versus 2, and this is match point. DRX are about to close out this specific map, I guess, and this is where we see the iconic Buzz desk slam. You can tell that he was frustrated, mainly because he's lost the map. They had the advantage. They should have closed out the series. At this point, they should have already been on the way to Bangkok, near enough. But as we can see, thankfully for T1, they have provided a little bit of insight in what happened after that desk slam, and I think it's really interesting. You should definitely give it a watch.
프랙처 들어가자. 남은 시간 30초. 하지만 메테오 잡혔고요. 픽스 잘 싸우고 있습니다.
아비.
결국 DRX가 헤이븐을 가져갑니다.
괜찮은데 급해지지 좀 마봐. 왜 이래 급해 지금? 이길 거 2번 있었는데 2번 다 졌잖아. 리콘 있으면 리콘 쓰고 더블 픽해도 되고 3대 5니까 아무것도 안 해도 이기는 거잖아 우리. 아니 정답지가 다 나와 있는데 정답지를 왜 안 하냐 이거지 내 말은. 쟤네 이기려고 뭐 한 거잖아. 우린 그냥 아무것도 안 해도 된다고. 야 오주야 2대 1이잖아. 천천히 하라고. 설하고 거리 많잖아. 천천히 하면 되잖아. 그리고 그것도 그래. 너가 먼저 걸리는 게 아니라 너가 태경을 베이팅해야지.
형보다 죽으면 어떻게 3대 5인데.
형 블라도 있었잖아 형 그거. 우리 드론으로
DJ 가기로 했고.
나티피 보내고 그 블라 타겟팅에 나티피 타면은
그래.
그냥 꽁킬이었어 다.
그러니까 이런 실수만 안 하면 돼. 그리고
우리가 진짜
일단
꽁승이었 2대 0 꽁승인데 그냥 우리가 그냥 우리 기회 발로 찬 거야. 이거 지면은 진짜 각오해야 된다 우리 진짜.
이기면 돼. 야, 세계 대회 가면 멘탈 나갈 일 더 많아. 여기서 그냥 터진다고 다음 경기 지잖아? 그런 게 더 싫어 나는.
맞아.
우리 이겨내야 돼. 실수해도 되니까 주눅 들지 마.
그냥 실수해도 되는데 우리 눈앞에서 안 하는데.
그냥 피드백도 욕 처먹고 실수하면 다음 라운드 내가 더 잘해야겠다 생각하고 해. 알겠지?
급해지지
티내지 마
마,
제발.
하나, 둘, 셋. 가자.
As we can see, super interesting conversation there backstage after they've thrown that series. Buzz, so extremely vocal. He's not yelling, but he's venting his frustrations on the players, the mistakes that they made. And I think throughout this whole vlog or documentary, whatever you want to call it, it's incredible. Because I knew Buzz ever since following him back in DRX Vision Striker days to seeing him now. He's got the qualities of a leader, almost like a captain. And I think that is underlooked amongst a lot of fans, at least it was in myself. Yet, he speaks his mind so freely. And especially back here, like, the fact that he can be so clear and concise in knowing, look, this is what we made up. This is the mistakes we made. We've got to fix this for next series. It's risky. Like, I think you as a coach, you as a player, you probably wouldn't want to hear this when you've got another map to go into, because of course, if you do say these things on one side, you might have players that go, yeah, do you know what? Let's let's get it. We've got this next map. Let's do it. And then you've got other players that might crumble, might go, oh, if we only closed it out. They'll start thinking about the past. They'll start overthinking. They'll start getting in their own head. And then the series really is lost. But same again, it shows the maturity. It shows the respect that every single one of these players has for each other. And they hold every single player accountable. Every single one. If you make a mistake, I'm going to call you out on it and we're going to fix it so you don't do it again. And I think it just highlights, again, the communication style that this team has. It's completely different to what I've seen, to what I would have expected. It's super interesting. So it's shortly after T1 lose to DRX on Fracture. They've gone back down to the lower bracket. DRX qualifies for Bangkok. They've done it. They can rest aside, put the feet up, and get ready to have a nice first-class ticket to Bangkok. However, T1, of course, they're frustrated, they're disappointed, they're tilted in a way. This is where they have another team discussion afterwards, basically just saying, like, this wasn't good enough. Why are we playing this poorly? I think it's super interesting. And same again, just watch Buzz, okay? Watch the way he communicates.
진출합니다. 와.
기분이 조금 많이 안 좋았던 것 같아요. 결승을 가는 문턱 앞에서 제일 중요한 경기였는데 그런 거에서 저희가 기회를 놓치고 진 거에서 조금 많이 분하고, 진 이유가 저희가 만들어낸 그 어처구니 없는 실수들 때문에 이 결과를 초래했다는 거에서 조금 속상했던 것 같아요.
아 진짜 근데 하고 싶은 말은 내일 만약 지면은 후회할 거잖아. 실수한 것들. 만약에 방콕 못 가면은 후회할 텐데 왜 그런 실수들을 했는지 난 솔직히 잘 이해가 안 된다. 안 간절한가? 난 간절한데. 난 간절해서 그런 판단을 한 거야. 근데 왜 나랑 다른 판단을 하는지 난 솔직히 잘 이해가 안 돼. 안 간절한가? 간절하면 정답지만 찾아서 해야 되는 거 아니야? 왜 자꾸 틀린 판단만 해? 발로란트 뭐야? 발로란트 스파이크 설치하고 터트리면 이기는 게임이고 패치하면 이기는 게임이잖아. 그냥 오게 냅둬. 그러고 같이 해도 되잖아. 진짜 중요한 상황에서 왜 급해지는 거냐고. 오히려 중요한 순간이 되면 더 펌하고 더 생각을 해야지. 심플하게 하는 건 좋아. 그럼 잘하라고. 근데 우리가 할 수 있는 그 모든 경우의 수 중에서 제일 최악의 경우의 수를 선택했어 그냥 우리. 그래서 졌고 5대3도 우리가 이길 수 있는 그냥 90대 10이었어 그냥 무조건. 그것도 그냥 우리가 할 수 있는 최악의 수를 선택해서 우리가 진 거야 그냥. 그래서 지금 이러고 있는 거 아니야. 3렙 가서 개고생하고 뭐 이겼어? 또 졌어 3렙에서. 물론 오늘도 이악 물고 했고 간절했던 거 알겠는데 내일은 진짜로 목숨 걸고 해라. 진짜. 난 항상 목숨 걸고 하는데 지금 판단하는 거 보고 콜하는 거 보면은 그냥 안 간절한 거 같아. 그냥 내가 봤을 때 판단하는 거 보면. 그래서 진짜 나도 그렇게 할 테니까 그냥 대가리 바꿔 하자 제발.
Same again. It's so interesting hearing Buzz speak like this, because I don't think a single fan, player, anyone that watches VCT and watches Pacific would have thought this of Buzz. Look, I saw Buzz at DRX, or Red Bull Homeground, sorry, and I was wearing my DRX jersey. I gave the guy a wave. He gave me a little Korean heart and everything. He seems like a chill guy, such an honest, kind guy, but this is such a different side to him, and the way he speaks like a captain. He speaks like a leader. He almost speaks like he could be a future coach, and it'd be so interesting. Of course, I don't want to look at Buzz retiring just yet, but the things he's saying are so harsh and brutally honest that they needed to be said. Like, every single thing he's saying is true. Every single player knows it. And I think it just shows how vital he is to probably what DRX were achieving back in the day with Vision Strikers, but also the growth that he's had up until now playing for T1. And to think he's able to put up such high statistics every single game he plays, whilst also being so intelligently smart, is something that not many players realise, or not many fans realise, and it kind of goes underlooked in my opinion. So that's something I just wanted to highlight. All right, next thing I want to quickly talk about is the coaching staff that T1 have, okay? Coaching staff throughout Valorant, especially assistant coaches, especially analysts, they get heavily underlooked every single time. They can't even come out when it's like an opening match walkout. They barely get to celebrate with the team at the end of the game. They are just so undermined, it infuriates me. But thankfully to T1 again, they show how smart and intelligent the staff that they have and some of the people that probably carry some of the wins that they get throughout this documentary. This individual here, I believe his name's Chongak. My Korean is insanely poor, so I apologize for butchering that name. But this guy, he is so smart, and it's shown through so many little snippets of clips of him just talking with the players, saying, look, this is what they do, this is what they do, this is how they go about each round, here's the default they do. It's so interesting to hear, and it's so enjoyable to watch him finally get his little bit of limelight, even though he probably doesn't even care or realise. But I also think it kind of shows the coaching staff structure within T1. I think from the documentary I've watched, Autumn is a head coach. He's a leader. He motivates the players. He never throughout this documentary shouts, sounds frustrated, almost pissed off. He sounds very calm. And it's interesting because he doesn't have to react in a way that maybe Alex does, or Frost, or some of these louder coaches, I guess. Fans of all of them, by the way. It just shows the uniqueness of T1's situation, that Autumn doesn't really need to say anything because Buzz says it, Stack says it, Meteor says it. You have 3 leadership players within this team that know when you've messed up, that know when you need to make changes, and know when you've almost thrown games, thrown rounds, thrown situations, and it's so unique. So I'll just play you this quick clip of this assistant coach speaking, and you can see what I mean.
상대가 선스턴 까고 미사일 까고 그냥 위치 다 알려주잖아. 미드 약하잖아. 그럼 우리 그냥 미드로 게임 풀어야 되는데 계속 너가 114 고집하길래.
아 그거는 그 전전 라운드 안 된 거 얘기한 거고 그 다음에는 이제 뭐.
괜찮아. 일단 끝나고 중요하고 바인드만 바인드.
네 말도 131 하든 311 하든 A 안 가면 되긴 하지.
그러니까 A를 가면 안 돼.
아니면 요루가 A 가도 되고. 요루가 혼자 하기를 원한 건데 이제.
아이 누나 그만하고 그 바인드 피스톨 정해줘.
이게 피스톨이야?
그냥 컨택 가서 한 명 찍히면 그냥 컨택하고 그럼 얘가 압박 느껴서
어쨌든 앞으로 해야 되니까 다들 뭐 안 괜찮아도 괜찮은 척, 괜찮으면 오히려 더 좋은 척, 뭐 약간 이렇게 조금 풀.
Same again. I'm gonna quickly go on VLR and just search the individual's name because they deserve this credit. They deserve respect. So Chongak and Indigo, okay? These 2 individuals here, they deserve so much more credit than they get, because I don't think I've heard or seen a single individual speak, and even Autumn, okay? Autumn caught so much slack all throughout kickoff. Granted, it was due to a comment made by Meteor on stream, but it definitely raised questions. It put a bit of pressure on him as well as the players. And after watching this documentary, that's put to bed. For me, every single coaching staff member within this team has a role, and they do it incredibly well. And same again, I've spoken about the assistants. Autumn, he's different. Like, he is really different. I think, granted, he is in a unique situation, because don't forget, Autumn, he coached for C9 back in the early days with Vanity and individuals like that. But it's like, every time he communicates with the players, it's so calm. It's so respectful. He doesn't force them to dwell on their own mistakes. He just makes them aware, says, guys, it's okay. We'll move on it. We'll work on it for next time, and we'll be better. I'm going to show you a quick clip of him actually doing this, just so you know I'm not just waffling and talking out my arse. But yeah. All right, so here's an instance where T1, again, upper final for the Pacific champion, and they've lost to DRX again. A couple mistakes that they made, but to be honest, this was just a tough game, a really tricky loss. And here is essentially Autumn giving a team talk at the end of it, summarizing his thoughts and the team's. So, yeah.
봐봐, 항상 중요한 게 우린 프로잖아. 진짜 이거 다 과정이거든, 진짜로 진지하게. 근데 그건 있어. 우리가 그 진 것 때문에 실수했던 그 친구들이 똑같아. 만약에 안 바뀌어, 희망이 없어, 똑같이 계속 져야 돼. 우리가 그런 리스크를 지고. 그러면 솔직히 문제를 할게. 나도 진짜 인정. 그 문제가 맞고 솔직히 말하면 걔 잘리는 게 맞아 이 팀에서. 근데 만약에 그 친구들 그런 실수한 친구들이 그거 덕분에 이게 진짜 뇌리에 박혀서 성장하고 우리 진짜 더 중요한 높은 무대에서 오히려 그것 덕분에 성장을 해서 이겨줄 수 있잖아. 다 이것도 해프닝이고 그거 덕분에 이겼다라고 말할 수도 있어 진짜. 나 그렇게 말하고 싶거든 나중에 얘들아. 이런 과정이 있기 때문에 우리가 진짜 난 이런 팀이 될 수 있었다. 난 이 스토리를 너희랑 같이 만들고 싶거든. 그래서 너무 힘든 거 다 아는데 오늘 어떻게 보면은 엄청 불리한 거를 이만큼 끌어온 것도 팩트이긴 해 얘들아. 너네들이 너무 대단하다 생각하고 너무 고맙거든. 그래서 힘든 건 다 알지만 태호도 알 거야. 태호도 상하이 우승할 때 이시드로 왔을 거야 아마. 근데 우승했잖아 태호도 그때 이시드로 가서. 그러니까 다 과정이고 난 진짜 너희들 진짜 대단하다 생각하거든. 그러니까 뭐 진짜 힘든 거 알고 하지만 그거는 이 분노를 잊지 말라고는 안 할게. 그 분노가 중요하긴 해. 근데 그걸로 진짜 본인도 좀 많이 변했으면 좋겠고 팀원들을 변하게 할 수 있게 다 같이 노력해서 우리 이번 마스터즈 진짜 좋은 성적 한번 거둬보자. 난 보여줬다 생각해. 그래 충분히 저력을. 난 진짜 박수 줄 거야. 진짜 잘했어. 진지하게 하는 말 너무 대단해 니들. 가자.
Same again. Oh, the insight that this documentary provides. If you're watching this video, I beg you to go and watch this whole 1 hour and 59 video. It does not disappoint. It is phenomenal. It is incredibly interesting. As I said, the way he speaks, it's not bossy. It's not like, I'm better than you. Why aren't you doing this? Why are you making these mistakes? He's just saying, I'm proud of you guys. If you make mistakes, burn them into your memory, build upon it, grow from it, and be better, because this will be a turning point. And the fact that they win Bangkok and this comes out is insane. Like, you've got to remember, this is from kickoff. They didn't know they were going to win Bangkok. They didn't know any of this stuff was going to happen. They didn't know that they were going to beat G2 3-2 in the final. They didn't know they were going to beat EDG. They didn't know any of these things. So the fact that we get to see this and see the troubles and the issues that they had to overcome, it's incredible. Honest to God, the best thing I've ever watched in esports. And I say that from a fan with huge bias towards Valorant. Best Valorant video of behind the scenes I've ever watched. It's something special. So, yeah. Okay, one of the big talking points, I guess, of T1 throughout this whole kickoff and Bangkok and whatever is the integration of Silvan. Okay, Silvan comes into T1, massive rookie, hasn't played in a really long time. I'm pretty sure it was after him doing his military service. Anyway, he plays a couple games. Certain issues arise within the team that they still haven't fully discussed, and I would love to speculate, but I don't want to say anything that's untrue. However, I do want to highlight the way that they integrate Silvan, okay? Because there's little glimpses all throughout this documentary that show coaching staff, head coach Autumn, the players themselves, really making him feel comfortable, okay? And I think something that was maybe undermined, or at least I didn't really take full consideration of, was the amount of pressure that he has had on his shoulders for this whole season, okay? Not only are you coming in back into VCT, playing with the likes of Stax, Buzz, Meteor, but as well as Izu, working with a head coach like Autumn, you are working with some of the best players and some of the best talent in Pacific, and you're a rookie, basically. So I'm just going to show a couple clips dotted throughout. I'll talk about them in the end and just highlight some of the things that they might have done, the ways that they communicate with him, some of the ways that they've integrated him into making him feel comfortable, and some of the things that the players and teammates say to Silvan to make him a little bit more relaxed.
너도 그냥 너가 네 판단 믿고 너가 그냥 킬할 수 있을 거든 킬하고 아닌 것 같아 확신 갖고 게임해. 네 줏대대로 게임 줏대대로.
네, 오케이.
애들이 뭐라 해도 그냥 쉽게 넘겨. 그러면은 다를 거야.
네. 근데 진짜 딱 피오프 때랑 느낌이 달라가지고.
그리고 진짜 뭐 부담 갖지도 말고
네.
그냥
죽인다는 말이야. 야, 저 그만 좀.
Now, from the things that have been said, I do think that one of the reasons that Silvan maybe was subbed out was just due to the pressure, was due to the fact that a lot of these players are trying to micro him, trying to make him feel a little bit more comfortable, but also make sure that they win the games. And it's taken a toll on the players, but also probably himself. And I think that over time, he has probably just become a little bit more comfortable, got a bit used to it, because, for example, Autumn says, like, stick to your style, trust your gut, but whatever the players say, just let it slide. Like, don't stress, don't worry. And the only thing that I can imagine is that maybe Stacks or Buzz, it was shown very early into this video. I believe it was, I'm going to be searching now, but essentially, Izu says, Silvan, we shouldn't have gone garage. We knew it was open. We shouldn't have gone through there. They were playing against Talon. And one of those little conversations, I think, saying something to Silvan like, we shouldn't have done that, or you misplayed that, threw him off a little bit, and I think probably made him doubt himself, doubt his ability, and ended up just snowballing and him losing confidence. But there are so many more clips that I'm going to go through of the players and the coaching staff talking to Silvan and just making him feel more comfortable. All right, so here's another little glimpse. This is really early on. This is when T1 playing against Boom. Silvan was still starting on the starting roster at this point, and this is sort of Autumn just giving him a quick little pep talk, getting his confidence up, making him feel a little bit more comfortable and at ease.
너가 원래 잘하는 게 에임 믿고 원래 잘하잖아 줄타기를. 너 에임 진짜 좋단 말이야 진짜로. 너 솔직히 이 5명 중에 너가 솔직히 상위권이야. 최상위권. 너가 1등일 수도 있고. 근데 너가 이렇게 할 때마다 좀 너무 신중해져. 그러니까 여기야 이거. 스크린 때 원래 많이 나오는 게 너가 실제로 이제 그 성향이 세서 드립을 못 칠 때 죽는 경우가 많잖아. 근데 반대야 이건. 이건 너가 해야 되는 거를 쫄아. 이긴 했거든? 근데 펄이 지금 우리가 힘든 게 결국 아스트라랑 킬조이랑 미드를 계속 이게 얼마나 리딩을 잘 주냐 중요하단 말이야. 수비가 그렇지? 나 이제 일본에서 1순위 선수다. 이게 너 때문에 온 게 아니라 잘할 수 있는 선수니까 온 거야. 그걸 잊지 말라고. 너가 그렇게 마음 가지면은 저 X밖에 안 나와. 너도 좀 아니잖아. 잘한단 말이야. 너의 걸 보여주자고.
Same again. The way Autumn speaks to his players, especially to Silvan, is such a unique thing that I don't see often. But then again, like, not many VCT teams release these kinds of behind the scenes videos. But just something like that, the way he speaks to him and just saying, look, you've got one of the best aim and game senses within this team. You doubt yourself too much. You need to be aggressive. You need to be confident. And the reason that we're struggling right now is because you aren't having that confidence. It's not because you're pressing W. And just seeing his growth all throughout this vlog or documentary, whatever you want to call it, it's super unique, super interesting. And seeing him grow as a player, if I'm being completely truthful, Silvan at the start of the video, like, his character development is what's crazy to me, because you at the start of the documentary, you see him a little bit quiet, a little bit timid, a little bit isolated, I guess. And then towards the end, he's joking with his teammates, he's having a laugh, they're having fun. It's really nice to see. But yeah, I think I'm going to move on to one last talking point that really has made me think, and it's been on my mind for the past couple months, really, on balancing trying to win whilst having fun. Okay, so I'll get to that shortly. Just before we get to talking about that last point, there was this clip that I quickly wanted to go over that just further highlights that even though they try to make Silvan feel comfortable and integrated in the roster, like, he's still going to make mistakes. And I think one of the questions that you can ask as a VCT fan to coaching staff, players, is how do you integrate this new member? How far behind are they? What experience do they lack? And it's sort of summarized, or at least interpreted within this clip, where Autumn's basically talking to Silvan about certain smokes he did on Fracture. T1 played against the same comp that EDG ran in terms of prep, And Silvan threw a couple of rounds or made some pretty glaring mistakes that cost the team. And Autumn just has a sit down with him and talks it over with him. So, yeah.
많았어가지고 조금 라운드 패배로 이어지는 경우가 있었던 것 같아요.
네 연막 3개가 팀적으로 좀 하나. 첫 번째 거 네가 저 연막을 치면 안 된다니까. 네가 인포를 집을 수 있잖아, 그럼 충분히. 생각해서 할게. 진짜 미안한 말인데 프로가 하면 안 되는 실수긴 해 진짜. 프로라는 사람이 진짜 말이 안 돼 진짜. 빡치고. 쟤도 얼마나 더 답답하겠냐. 쟤 애들이 안 하고 있잖아. 분위기 좀 안 만들고 해가지고. 그냥 진짜 프로 게임을 이해 못하는 것밖에 안 느껴지는 게 얘네가 공격 애들이 오는 패턴이 있잖아. 그 패턴을 알고 있으면 된단 말이야. 그 패턴을 아니까 카운터 치는 게 게임이잖아. 그렇게 안 한다니까. 우리는 지금 이런 작전들을 왜 쓰는지 다 이해하고 있잖아. 이 작전이 왜 좋고 이 작전을 쓸 때 어떤 디테일을 가는지 다 알고 있고 하니까 지금 프로 모든 팀들이 지금 탑4 팀들 보고 작전 좋은 거 많단 말이야. 우리 좋은 거 많이 갖고 있고 알아듣니까 같이 배우고 있잖아. 나 솔직히 말해 나도 패턴 몰랐어. 나도 알고 있던 옛날 맵 게임들 했지. 근데 해보면서 아는 거란 말이야. 다른 팀 애들 대회하는 거 보고 스킬에서 맞아보면서 지금 메타가 이거구나 하면서 느끼면서 이제 그걸 만드는 거잖아.
이 연막 2개를 써서 그래서 내가 아니 용서봐 안테나 가려야 된다니까? 이제 그 위에 연막 하나 붙여. 그래서 이제 활용 못 터졌어.
그러니까 이게 진짜
어떡해.
그러니까
어떡하냐고 이거.
그러니까 이게 진짜 얘네가 지금 우리 폴시피 대표야. 1등이야 지금. 전 세계 4등 안에 들었다고 지금. 정말 해주자. 멋있게 만들어보자. 알 수 있다 생각해 진짜.
It's so incredible, man. It's incredible. You don't get this level of insight with any other team. And I respect T1 for doing this because you are showing a lot. Like, this is almost like a reality TV show, I guess. At least that level of detail. There was one thing that Autumn said, right? And it's insane. So not only does he say, look, when Fracture first dropped, I didn't have an idea, but I watched other teams play. I studied them. But it's this. Because knowing the pattern is how you counter. That's the game. And it's insane, right? Because this is so true. 100%. If you are a Valorant player and you want to get better, you want to improve, you want to learn, pattern recognition is one of the most important skills you can learn. As an IGL and as a coach, as an analyst, as an anti-strata, whatever. That is it. The better you can recognize patterns, that's how you win. It's insane. This quote, this is a quote I need at the top of my wall, beside my bed. Right there, above my bed, I'm going to put that quote from Autumn because it's incredible. Incredible. I love it to bits. But yeah, as you can see, Autumn's been a little bit harsher, but it was needed. You know, he's a rookie. He's got to take this pressure. He's got to learn. He's got to develop. And it shows. You look at this vlog, this documentary, and you think, oh, Autumn was a bit harsh here, or, oh, Buzz shouldn't have crashed out. He shouldn't have done this. He shouldn't have done that. Nah. Because this is what makes a winning team. And it shows. If they didn't win, okay, it's a bit of a different story. But it's still needed because that's how you grow. That is how you develop. That's how you improve. And it shows with Silvan. Because Silvan is a core example that when you have good coaching staff and you have good support structures, I guess, you can make a world-class controller player like Silvan. You can make a world-class player in any respect. And I think it kind of shows with Izu as well. Izu was a massive rookie at the start of playing with T1 alongside like Rossi and Carpe and Sire player. But now he's become one of the best flex players in the world. So yeah, that was my final quick little talk on Silvan, and we'll go into the last point. Okay, now this is the final and last talking point that I want to go over this documentary. There's loads more I could talk about. If you really wanted to, I could talk about this whole 1 hour and 59 because there's so many little details that are incredibly interesting, but we don't have time for that, I guess, and none of you are going to watch the full length anyway. But anyway, this is it, right? This is when they decide to sub Silvan back in, right? And what I do want to talk about is massive credit to Carpe, because throughout this documentary, especially in the early sections of Kickoff, he has so much input. He is an assistant coach. He's a coach in my mind, okay? And I think if T1 do decide to let him go, he should 100% go into coaching because he is a valuable asset within any team. But this is when they decide to sub back in Silvan, sub out Carpe, and there's something that Stacks says that I think you can sort of pick apart a little bit. So yeah, we'll get into that.
섭이 형이라는 좀 소방수 투입이라고 해야 될까요? 좀 긴급하게 선수 교체가 이루어졌었는데 선수들이 당황하기도 했고 조금 힘들어하기도 했지만 그래도 저희끼리 그날 똘똘 뭉쳐서 잘 하면은 높은 성적 진짜 이룰 수 있는 대회고 그런 곳이니까 잘 해보자고 좀 마음을 다졌던 것 같습니다. 그 전에 분위기가 많이 안 좋기도 했고 다들 의기소침해지고 좀 의욕 자체가 많이 사라질 수도 있는 상황이라고 생각을 했었고 영섭이 형한테 자신감을 심어주는 게 제일 가장 중요하다고 생각을 했었거든요. 어떻게 보면 영섭이 형도 갑작스럽게 들어와서 좀 많이 힘들고 당황스러울 텐데 괜찮았으면 좋겠고 좀 잘하면 좋겠다는 마음에 그렇게 했었던 것 같아요.
좀만 더 고생하자 얘들아. 우리 진짜 이길 수 있다. 이기고 이 마스터즈 우승하자. 우리 지금 운영적으로 솔직히 잘 못했다 생각하거든. 봐봐, 딱 알려줄게. 그러니까 얘네가 일단 그 DRX 젠지랑 레벨이 다른 팀이잖아. 트레이스 스포츠 로터스 그 정도까지 아니거든. 하는 거 보니까 젠지랑은 비교도 안 될 정도로 못해 솔직히 얘기해서. 그러니까 얘네가 어떻게 하냐면은 우리 피스톨보다 더 빡게.
분이 어딨지?
Okay, now small little detail. To be honest, I thought I remembered a little bit more, but essentially saying we need to have fun. Like, not only do we need to give Silvan confidence, but the morale was low, the motivation wasn't there, they were losing hope. And I think there are so many teams throughout VCT where you can see this happen, and it's oftentimes with superstar rosters. I'm going to use PRX as an example, okay? PRX started as a team, they didn't care. They didn't care about winning. They played for fun. And through playing through fun, results started to come and they started to have their own little era and they started to have their own little dominance. They were a one-team dominant region or whatever. And over time, we've seen this happen with more. NRG last year, big mess up. You know, you're taking 5 superstar players, whacking them all in one team, and things start to rub. People don't start to work as hard, whatever. Another example can be Vitality this year. They've got a lot of pressure. They have got a very expensive roster with an insane amount of talent and a lot of expectations. If you start to lose these expectations and if you start to care about winning too much, you start to get stressed. You start to resent your teammates maybe. You start to get frustrated a little bit too quickly. And from what I remember, there's another part in this documentary where Stacks talks about it saying, we were too determined. We cared too much. And I think Meteor is a core example of having a fine balance. Of course he wants to win, but you can't become too addicted and dedicated to winning to the point where you're not having fun. Because what's the point in playing a video game competitively if you're not having fun? And it's a really hard concept to grasp. And I think even myself as like an aspiring coach, like, it's such a tricky question because how do you structure practice? How do you structure official matches? You know, when you're in IGL and you're trying to call at the start of the round, how do you balance something that happened last round and one of your players wants to be like, oh, bro, I just one-tapped someone through the smoke. You can't be like, oh, shut up, I'm trying to call a round, because you're not having fun. It's like it's such a fine line on making sure that you're not going too over the top, but also you're not trying, because then that's not effective practice. So it is really interesting. It's a very, very valuable lesson that I think needs to be talked about. And yeah, overall, as I said, one final quick little glaze of this documentary is it's phenomenal. Whoever at T1 decided to make this documentary, decided to follow all these players and staff around with cameras throughout this whole sort of kickoff and Masters, fair play, massive credit to all of the players, of course, but as I said, I want to highlight especially the coaching staff, the support staff, every single person that goes into the shadows and almost undermined or underlooked when it comes to the professional stage. This documentary really showed me another side that I think is needed more. And I hope that this documentary shows to other teams and VCT teams that we should do more of this. We should be more open with our fans, our players, because things like this makes the VCT scene grow a lot more than people might realize. But yeah, that's it for this quick little video. I know I haven't made a video in probably over 9-10 months, so I don't know. If you want more videos, let me know. If you don't, that's completely fine. I'm just going to keep posting when I want and what I want. But yeah, that's it for this video. Like and subscribe if you want. Share this, please. Go watch it. Go like this video. It's a must watch for anyone that is a fan of VCT, especially T1 fighting. But yeah, that's it for me. I'll see you later.